the places nobody goes. I wanna teach all the things that nobody knows. I wanna grow wings, leave the coop, learn to fly. Bungee jump from the tallest building in Dubai. I wanna fly around town in my UFO. I wanna eat real food, not the GMOs. I wanna make moves, call the shots like the boss. I wanna love like I never lost.
Today's episode of Desertwood Days with Kathy Blaze was sponsored by Dork Publishing. Visit them at dorkpublishing.com.
Welcome back to Desertwood Days. I am so excited to have a friend of the show back again. Let's welcome Mr. Joseph James. Hello there.
Hey there.
Welcome back.
Thank you. You look fantastic.
Thank you. Great to see you again.
I love this outfit.
Oh, thank you. I love your outfit.
Oh, thank you. That's my Be Kind shirt. Yes.
I love that. Be kind.
Yes.
We need more of that.
Absolutely.
Yes, we do. So how have you been, Joseph?
I've had a rough summer. My father passed this summer.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, and went through a few challenges. But as in anything, you get to choose where you're going to focus your energy. And with the help of a good friend of mine who kind of pulled me out of my darkness, showed me a vibrational chart and said, "Hey, where are you?" And I was like, "Well, I'm at the bottom." And he says, "Well, where do you want to be?" And I said, "Well, I'd like to be up there where it says joy."
Right.
And he said, "Well, then do that. Focus on all things that bring joy." Right. So I started doing that. And it wasn't easy at first.
Of course not.
Yeah, fake it till you make it kind of stuff,
Right.
But it's funny, as you do it and stimuli come in and you have a choice, am I going to allow my environment to dictate me or am I going to dictate my environment? And I just kept pushing through, and I got to tell you, I wake up happy every day now.
I love hearing that.
So,
I love hearing that. You know what? We can trick our mind into switching over and doing different things. So I love what he had you to do.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure your dad didn't want you to stay down in that lower vibration.
Absolutely not. No.
No, because you're too much of a positive guy
Yeah.
that have so much to add to the world to be down there.
Yeah. And I don't think there's anything wrong with taking a beat to feel, it's I love that movie, Inside Out. Is that it? Or In It? Not In and Out. Inside Out with the little characters, joy and sadness and anger and.
Oh, I haven't seen that.
No, it's fantastic. But there's a scene with Bing Bong. And they keep trying to keep sadness away, right? They're like, no, sadness, go over in the corner. And then, there's this moment where Bing Bong is totally down and Joy's trying to, come on, everything's good, everything's good. And he's not having it. And then sadness comes over and just sits with them and they're able to cry together. And then, okay, I'm good now.
And you're right. I don't believe that is healthy to not grieve.
Sure.
You have to have a grieving process, but you can't stay there in that process. You have to get out of there at some point.
Right, exactly.
Sometimes people don't know how to get out of there.
Oh, yeah.
That's the thing. They don't know how to get out of there. And some people don't want to get out of there.
No. Well, there's this great chart of choices where on one side you've got victim, on the other side you have victor.
Right.
And you get something on both sides.
Right.
When you
That's
are
true.
choosing to be a victim, you get attention, sympathy, right? But on the victor side,
wait for some time off work.
Yeah, right, yeah. So yeah, a lot of people they just want that.
Right.
They love being able to be like,
Right.
oh man, it's so bad, and everyone's like, oh, I'm so sorry. But eventually people are tired of hearing
They
it.
get tired of it. Yeah.
I'd rather be on the other side with freedom and happiness and joy.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It's a healthier place.
100%.
But it's it allows you to remember those great memories that you had with your loved one also. Because when you're in that grieving place, you're not thinking of all the good times you have with that person. You're just thinking we're in a selfish place. I'm going to put it there.
Exactly.
We're just thinking that person has left us and they're no longer here with us in the physical.
And you can't create out of a negative space.
Right. That's a good one. You can't create in a negative space like that.
Yeah. Well, you can't create anything positive, I guess.
Yeah, that's true.
Which is what brings me here.
What brings you here? I know the last time we saw you, you were here in regards to filmmaking, but you're an author now.
Yes.
And your new book is called Single Dad.
Single Dad. Yeah, it's a field manual for today's single father. I don't feel like there's a lot of books that are written from a guy's perspective to really address the things that we go through and not in a negative way. One of the things I put in the introduction of the book is what this book is not.
Right.
This is not a I hate women, let's get together and bash our exes book whatsoever. This is an accountability book. This is a mirror.
Accountability.
Yeah.
I like that.
What is it that you can take ownership of, even if your ownership is just a little bit, right? I mean, you could have been done really wrong. Right. But it doesn't mean that you are completely guilt-free, right? You still chose to have a child with that person.
That's true.
So therefore, you can at least own that, right? And then for the child's sake, how are you going to...
Again, look at what you just said. And it goes back to what we were just talking about in that grieving process. When you're not taking accountability and you're not getting that ownership, you're down at that level that you're grieving about me.
Right.
So you can't do those things when you're down there.
Exactly.
So you're hitting it there.
No, because I've been there. Right. But my only friends at that point in time are pizza and ice cream, and that's not a good. That's not a good company I like to keep.
So with Single Dad, you mentioned that there weren't many books that were written for single dads that attacks in the area that you're attacking it. Did you do any research on that to see how many books are out there? Or?
I have searched over the past 19 years since my first child was born for books, and I've found a lot of great self-help books, a lot of great business development books, a lot of great spiritual books, but nothing that specifically said when you're going through a custody battle or when you are dealing with accusations that people are making against you, right? You're now trying to parent a child without the co-parent working with you.
Right.
What do you do in that scenario? When and usually the dad only has a few days, right?
Right.
Because the mom typically gets the majority of time, which in most cases I think is probably good for the child, especially in those first 10 years.
Because usually that's nurturing. That's their norm.
Right, exactly.
Right.
But guys are just kind of left to flounder around, and we don't do well when we're floundering. So yeah, I wanted to, and it took me 19 years to really get my mind right to write a book that was coming from the proper motivation. Right. I had started writing this in 2006, but my mind wasn't right. I knew I didn't want to write a revenge book. I didn't want to write, something that was going to tear down. Because here's the thing.
Well, it seemed like this right here, this was coming from personal experience. This was coming from your heart. And that's such a big difference than when you write a self-help book or a revenge type book. This is coming from your heart because you want to help other people. That's the biggest difference with your book than those other types of books.
Exactly.
In my opinion.
And at the end of the day, the only thing that really matters is the kid.
Correct.
Right? So.
But you know what? When you're going through all that, we forget about that little person in the middle.
So easy to do.
We think they don't hear nothing. They don't see nothing. They hear and they see everything. And I have to tell this. I'm going to be a little transparent here. When I was going through my divorce, I was one of those old, she don't hear anything. She don't got tucked in the bed. She don't hear, see nothing. Until my daughter broke out with eczema. Never had eczema before in her life. It was stress related.
Yeah?
Yes. And that was what triggered it.
Right.
So she was hearing everything. She was feeling everything.
Oh, yeah.
But as adults, we're in our own world, what we want.
Yeah.
And forgetting about that little person that it's all about.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I love that you're touching this. How long, you said it took you 19 years to put this together?
pretty much conceptually. When I actually sat down to write it took a week.
Okay.
But it's kind of like bamboo. I had 19 years
of thoughts and
Yeah.
everything to put down on paper.
And then it was last Christmas. I just sat down on break and went to a coffee shop, and just it flowed out of me.
What was it about that moment that you decided that was the time to do it?
I had a friend of mine at the time that said, you really should write a book. So when I first became a single dad to my son, I was like, wow, how am I going to choose to discipline? Because I didn't agree with the way that my parents went about it with me. So I knew I didn't want to model that, but I didn't have a roadmap to follow. And I tell you, it was a gift of the Holy Spirit that just gave me these 4 self-discipline numbers. And I write about it in the book. And it's number 1 is you're listening. Number 2 is you're not listening. Number 3 is timeout. Number 4 is a spanking. Back in the 80s, it was because I said so. I'm the parent, right? You never got to know the why. And I always wanted to know the why. And I had a hard time following rules if I didn't understand why they were in place. So with these four numbers, what I was able to do with my son is first I taught them to him. And I said, when you are not listening, I'm just going to ask you, what number are you at?
Right.
And he'll say, number 2. And I'll say, what number do you want to be at? And he usually says, number 1. I say, okay, well then go to it. And he immediately shifts his behavior and starts listening again. It's amazing. Sometimes he'll say number 3. I'll say, okay, we'll go to timeout. And when I first did it, he'd say, well, where's timeout? I said, well, you're in charge of your discipline. So you pick where timeout is. So he'd find a place on the wall and go sit. Then he'd say, well, how long do I have to be here? I said, again, you're in charge of your discipline. When you're ready to go back to number 1, you can come out. And often he would just go, oh, okay, well, I'm ready. I said, great, come on back out. And he'd start listening again. Because that's really, it's not about how long you have to sit in punishment. It's when you're ready to correct your behavior, you can come out. There was one time he was so upset about something. I don't even know what it was. He goes, 4. So, okay, come on over. And I gave him a little symbolic boop. And I said, go to number 3. And he went to number 3. And then
he automatically said number 4.
He did. I guess he wanted to see what,
what
that was going to be.
Look, I want to see what number 4 is all about.
Yeah. But I mean, again, it's not about inflicting pain on your child. It's symbolic, right? I wish my parents knew that. They broke the wooden spoon over me. But I was never taught to discipline myself. It was just, I would behave until I hit a point that I went too far. And then there would be corporal punishment.
Well, you know what? I only remember number 1. Go outside and find me a switch.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
But that was just 1.
That's all there was, But I mean, think about how valuable it is to be able to learn the consequences and how to discipline yourself at an early age. Because how many adults do you know that don't know how to do that?
That's true.
Right?
That is true.
Yeah.
So how long have you been using this method?
So he's about to turn 8, and I started at age 3.
Okay.
And I tell you, the proof is in the pudding because he is just such a perfectly behaved child.
So you have this in your book as well?
That's in the book. And then I deal a lot with conflict resolution and how to handle being in a co-parenting relationship where the other parent is not willing to co-parent. And that's challenging. That can be really, really difficult. So I get into what you can do because you can only control yourself.
That is true.
Yeah. So steps that you can take, like one of my favorite things, again, I'm from the military. It's a field manual. It's designed to look like a military field manual. So one of the things that I put in there is a lot of military references. Okay. So I talk about how accusations are like bullets. But the only bullets your enemy has are the ones that you give them. And what I mean by that is if I'm going to accuse you of being something that you're not, those are blanks. Okay. So let's say somebody accuses you of being scary or violent, right? Well, they can accuse you of that,
Right.
But if you then turn around and go, I am not,
you have to receive it.
well, now you've just put the gunpowder in their bullet by
right.
proving them right.
Right.
But if you just let the bullets fly, if they're blanks,
Mm.
and you don't respond, well, then they're just going to disappear.
I just had this same conversation with my brother the other day about not receiving. If you don't receive it, it's not true.
Right. Exactly.
I sure did. I mean, it was worded different than what you're saying, but it was the same topic.
Yeah. I mean, it's not easy when the bullets are flying. You know, it's
And
not.
especially when you're an adult, because you receive things differently. It's
Sure.
just like we receive things as a disrespect.
Yeah.
And that's the way he was receiving it. Someone was disrespecting him. Well, if it's not true, just let it go. Don't worry about it. They can say whatever they want. People are going to call you things, accuse you of things, but what is your fighting about it going to solve?
It's only going to make it worse.
Right, because they're going to think it's true. Oh, you got mad, so it must be true.
Exactly. You know, in the beginning, you know, there may be people that believe it, but as time goes by and there's no evidence to back it up, they start to go, wait a minute, this something's not adding up.
Right.
You know?
But you know what I forgot to say, and I usually say this earlier. Thank you for your service, Joseph.
Oh, thank you.
Normally say that up front. Being a veteran, military, do you find yourself, do you still live your life and structured? as
Very
you
much
were-
so.
Okay.
They beat it into you. Like, it's not coming out. I still eat my food faster than everybody else at the table.
So is the book structured in that manner as
Very
well?
much so. Yeah. You know, and I think men especially need that sort of discipline and structure. I know I do. So yeah, it's very broken down. It's very logical. The chapters are very short. It's 10 pages to a
Okay.
chapter. It's less than 100 pages. And I wrote it as what I call a bathroom reader,
Mm,
right? It's not meant to be read in one shot.
mm.
Take little doses at a time, especially if you're in the middle of an emotional conflict. You don't want to stay there too long.
Have you had any book signings yet?
I've not.
Okay, I'm interested in seeing your book signing and see who your audience is.
That would be wonderful. I love that
Yes.
idea.
I would love to be there to see that. Because you know what? I'd love to see a room full of men in there reading this book.
That would be great. Yeah.
And you know what? I would love to see a room full of women reading this book also. Because on that other side, we need to know what you guys go through, how you're feeling during that moment. I mean, how we can do things a little different. You know, again, we talk about when we're going through that process, it's about me. I don't care what you're going through. It's about me.
Yeah.
And we are selfish. We're going through something that's traumatic. So we're only caring about our feelings at the moment.
And that's half right, because you should be focused on yourself, but not in a woe is me, but in a what can I do about my situation? What can I control? What can I change about my perspective, my behavior that can start to influence?
But we're not thinking about how we can change. We want you to change.
Exactly.
That's
Right.
the thing. So I think this will be good for both sides to read, to see how you feel. I mean, you know, you guys have heard everything about us, what we want and how we do things. So we need to see your side of it also.
I've actually had more women read my book and give me feedback. So,
Really, I
yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
I like that. That is awesome. So what's next after Single Dad?
So I'm actually building out a whole single dad brand,
Okay.
kind of like Chicken Soup for the Soul.
Uh-huh.
And I'm working on my second book right now that's under the Single Dad brand. It's called The Quest for Joy After Losing the Battle.
Oh, okay.
So as I told you in the beginning, I went through a pretty rough ordeal this summer, and I wanted to find joy. So I started writing this book, not as somebody that has found joy and is teaching how to get it, but I'm writing it as somebody that's on the quest, and I invite my readers to join me. And every chapter I write, this one came out in a week. Second book is not coming out so fast. I just
you
finished.
had 19 years to
That's true.
ponder that.
I just finished my second chapter, and that was on betrayal, and that was a tough one. But every chapter, I'm learning more. So as I learn it, I write another chapter,
Right.
And I'm really excited about that one because I think it's going to be a totally new. It's kind of almost like a choose your own ending book, right?
Yeah.
Like it's a totally different concept of self improvement.
Right.
Where
And so
the
it's good. It's therapeutic for you,
Yeah.
you, and you're learning a little bit more about yourself each time.
and I'm very honest in my books, so it's people read that, they say, "Oh, I want to learn about you." It's like, well,
So where can our audience find you?
on Amazon.
On Amazon.
Yep.
Awesome.
Yep, just look up Single Dad, and you'll see that cover. And
Okay.
yeah, there's actually a few Single Dad books, which I was surprised to discover. But this one is definitely from. I'm not a PhD. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a psychologist. There's no letters or credentials, and I say that in my introduction after my name. I am a single dad.
You're a
I am a
single
guy
dad.
that's suffered the slings and arrows, and this is my experience of how I've been able to come out of it on top.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. And thank you for joining us again today.
Happy
Such
to
a
be here. Thank you for
pleasure.
having me.
Thank you. And thank you for joining us here today on Desert with Days, and we'll catch you next time.
Today's episode of Desertwood Days with Kathy Blaze was sponsored by Dork Publishing. Visit them at dorkpublishing.com.